Everyone belongs to Fountain Street Church. The question is, how do we make it happen? Because I think that we have to go beyond the idea of welcoming outsiders. I want you to abandon the notion that there are outsiders at all. There are no outsiders at Fountain Street Church. The American Unitarian founder William Ellery Channing, who despised the idea of creating a denomination, once said that the only true excommunication from the church is the death of goodness in a human heart. In other words, the door is always open to those who wish to come in. It is only leaving that makes you not a member. He deplored the sorting of goats and sheep that denominations do, and they still do. Have you noticed? You have to prove your street cred wherever you go. You're not quite welcome until you do this, or until you say that, and until you accomplish this. And I'm saying this really is a come as you are church, because when you're here, you're home. My Universalist ancestors, who believed in the universal salvation of everyone, that everyone was going to be redeemed, often wondered why, if everyone is going to heaven, they spent so little time getting together on earth. After all, if you're going to spend eternity with everyone, you might want to start relating to them before you have to make the last trip. The founders of American liberal religion preached a dream of a church that was the world, of a church that served the world, that didn't huddle into competing camps looking for market share or trying to compete for being the most powerful. And this dream is the one that's been lost, and it needs to be restored, and we can do that. To say everyone belongs to Fountain Street Church is to solve the growth problem at a stroke. We don't have to grow, we just have to go to them. And that includes the Pope. So when I was there, I was glad to say, yo, good to have you in my house too. It includes the Dalai Lama, whether he's in Tibet or not. It includes the President of the United States and the President of Iran. There is no one who is not a part of Fountain Street Church. Now, most do not know, and most honestly do not care, and some do care and stoutly reject the idea, but let's remember what I said. They drew a circle to keep me out. Heretic, rebel, a thing to flout, but love and I had wit to win. We drew a circle that took them in. This is the religious dream of Fountain Street Church. There's always a circle wider than the one you draw, and in fact, that circle ultimately is the only image of God that's completely reasonable, of the encompassing reality in which all of us belong, the one to which St. Augustine prayed when he said, "And our hearts will not rest until they rest in thee," because that's the source and destination of all of our lives. Now, if you've got that vision in your mind that everyone belongs to Fountain Street Church, you're saying, well, then what are we here? Well, remember when I talked about Parker Palmer, a great Quaker scholar? Dick, he's nodding his head. He knows what I'm going to say. Parker Palmer explained that the Quakers did not abolish the clergy, they abolished the laity. Did you just hear that? What that means, and this is the third thing you need to remember, everyone is the Messiah, everyone belongs to Fountain Street Church, and everyone at Fountain Street Church is a minister. There is no membership here, there's only ministry here. The passage from Exodus gives you a clue. There's Moses trying to be the fellow running the whole show, and his father-in-law, Jethro, says, Moses, 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 you can't do this. You'll wear yourself out. Besides, the people are waiting forever. Appoint others to help you. Who said you knew everything? And that's what happens. He appoints various councils and groups to deal with the day-to-day stuff. He delegated his actual authority to others so that he didn't have to do it all. Now, that's a practical message. I told you it was an MBA class I was teaching. How to get others into leadership. Likewise, the modern church, the true church of the 21st century, is a ministry not done by us in pulpits, but by you in the world. We just help. But this is more than a tactic or a program. It is fundamental to the liberal religious spirit. If everyone is the Messiah and we all have a calling and a messianic mission, it begins with your liberation and your animation. And if you only do it here for an hour a week, you're just putting a light over that bushel. Putting a bushel over that light, excuse me. You're not doing your ministry. The more free and alive that you are out there as a minister to people, the more good you are doing. So that makes this not a church. This space is not a church at all. This is a seminary. You have enrolled in a university of continuing spiritual and religious education. It's about a school for the soul. And I've used that word before, but it's time to go back and grab it now. And our calling as a community of ministers, if you will, is to liberate the minds and animate the souls of everyone who belongs to our church, which, as I look at it, is about 6 billion people. We have some work to do. You'll notice that I'm setting forth a vision that is larger than any church ever existed. And you're laughing. How silly. And it's longer than anyone here can conceivably live to see. Needless to say, this is a superhuman task, but it's not a supernatural task. We wait for no judgment day to reckon everything. We wait for no second or first coming to bring down the curtain on reality and run the credits. Instead, we agree with a bulletin board or billboard I saw in a Catholic church, surprise, surprise, that said, "We are the only body Christ has now." Amen. If we're waiting to be saved, we're going to wait a very long time. But the only way to be a genuine Christian is to embody the life of Jesus. Or you don't even have to do it on purpose. Just do it. Whether you come to church or not, whether you care about religion or not, whether you believe in God or not, we are all in this to take part in the liberating and animating of the world. Oh, I hear you thinking, how are we going to do this? You're way outside your league, Fred. Well, yeah. But if you never had a great dream, why bother having any of them? But I can give you 3 brief ideas about where we could go. I only have a moment or two. But your ideas will be as important as mine. 1, if we can't get 6 billion people in the house, and we can't, we have to go to where they are, which means we need a real electronic ministry. Ours is almost as antiquated now as sending sermons by mail. That's how fast the culture is changing. We're doing not nearly enough to reach the people who would be reaching us on other continents, in other states. And not just through sermons. You have things to offer. Facebook is exciting because you all do it, not because someone else is doing it for you. That is a model for ministry that we can put in place. Yes, it will take time. Yes, it will take money. Is it worth doing? Yes. Everything we do here, from worship to fellowship to pastoral care, everything can happen everywhere if we wanted to. Second, we have to start thinking of this place not as a place where we worship and go to Sunday school, but a place where we go to Sunday school and worship. That education, spiritual formation, is the marrow of our existence. I recently met a woman who grew up here. She came to me, 4th story, if you're counting, who came to me saying, "I'm getting married, my husband is Catholic, can you help us out?" I said, "Of course I can." He said, "Well, you can help me out." Remember, she grew up here. She said, "My fiance wants to do the Lord's Prayer, but what is that?" Excuse me, but if anyone gets out of Fountain Street Church without knowing what the Lord's Prayer is or how to say it, we have failed you. Likewise, you should be able to say a Kaddish. You should be able to say, you could be able to introduce a surah. You should be able to be present in the world religiously in a variety of ways. I don't mean just the factual knowledge. We have to equip people to be present in the world religiously, spiritually, and morally. The writer Frederick Buechner wrote, "The place God calls you is where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet." Do you know what that is? Do you know where that is? That's what we exist to do, to help you find your deep gladness and to put it where the deep hunger is. That's what we're here. We do it in worship, we do it in schools, we do it in fellowship, we do it in social action. But it's to equip you to be your joyful best in a world that is hungry for your joy. And that's not cheap either. The world needs us to be a spiritual university that not only offers learning but expects it. This too will take time and money, but again, money well spent. And third, since liberal religion is more of a university than a temple, we need our space to become more of a campus and less of a temple. This sanctuary is boundlessly inspiring and beautiful, but the soul of Fountain Street Church in the future will be in the chapel and in the church house. The chapel is a symbolic place where, as we've found, even a Muslim can feel at home. And it should be a home for anyone of any faith or of no faith to come and be present spiritually. As I suggested to you 3 years ago, it's time to make that happen. But it's time to make that happen in concert with making the church house more accessible to people with disabilities, more welcoming to people who have never been here before. So you don't have to ask, where is the bathroom? Or you don't have to figure out where the stairs are and why there are 3 different ways to get everywhere and no one seems to know where anything is. That's not a house that says welcome home. It's a house that says go away. We need to be a house where you walk in and say, I know where I am and I know what I'm going to do. I have a place here. Because after all, this isn't our house. We are just trustees. We have to give it to someone else, and not just the future. We have to give it to the world. We need to renovate that place to create additional gathering space, places where any kind of people can be present and feel they belong. We need light, real light in there. We need air. We even need water. We need all of it. We need to be a house that's as open to the outside as it seems now to be closed off. That's not easy, and that's not cheap either. But we have 7 years. We have 7 years to make this into truly a house of prayer and faith for all people, in word, in deed, in substance. We have 7 years to make it happen. We have 7 years to be able to start the next century and a half ready for the future as well as appreciative of the past. If we want to be there, we need a dream that's bigger than us, a dream big enough to scare us, as Wangari Maathai said. Remember what she said? If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. Are you frightened? I hope so, because we're getting close to big enough. I dream of a church that serves the world, that saves the world, that embodies the world. Do you? And may it be. Heart in peace with deep thanksgiving, rendering as we homeward tread, love and service through the living, gentle memory.